Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to another reading of A Starstruck Legacy. This will be Chapter 5, a chapter with a decent amount of fighting. Here's the summary. The first round of the tournament. There is a decent amount of fighting in this chapter. Well, that was anticlimactic. Aaron groaned as the second round ended as quickly as it had begun. So much for teamwork, Jasper stated. Mike shrugged. Not that big a deal. Everyone comes here for the third round anyway. Speaking of which, his gaze shifted to Kathleen. You're the pro here, Kathy. If you were a bettin' woman, who would you put your money on? Midoriya, Kathleen answered like it was common knowledge. Aaron curiously raised an eyebrow. Really? The kid with the robot suit? What about the guy with the ice, or the flying girl? Hey, the kid's got spunk, and you know how much I respect spunk. I'd say most of them have spunk. Jasper chapped his finger to his chin. Doesn't that come with the territory of being a teenager? What can I say? I'm biased. In favor of what? Robots, or the color green? Yes. Well, let's see if your biases play out, Aaron said as he focused on the TV. Why didn't you let me drop out? Kotsky mentally yelled at his conscience as he sat with his class on the bleachers. You wanted to win, didn't you? His conscience replied smugly. Yeah, on my own terms. I wasn't asking for any handouts. Kotsky heard a facepalm from inside his head. I can't believe you wanted to drop out just because you got a free ticket to the third round. They only gave it to me because they pitied me. No, they only gave it to you because you placed second in the obstacle course. Your skill was still a factor in you making it past the second round, just in a different way. I swear, it's like talking to a brick wall sometimes. But at least brick walls can't shout profanities in my non-existent face. Oh, fine, you've made your point. If you want me to kill those extras so badly, I'll blast and do it. Good. Next on the list is getting you to stop calling people extras. You can start by carefully observing their matches. Kotsky frustratedly snorted as he shifted his gaze away from the field. Like I gave two pops about what those losers are doing. Do I need to remind you about the last time you didn't give two pops about your opponent? Say one more word to me about the battle trials, and you'll be picking up your teeth with broken fingers. Fine, just don't come crying to me when you lose. Round 1. Izuku Midoriya versus Habuko Mongoose. Before we begin the tournament round, here's a quick refresher on the rules, Midnight announced with her whip in hand. The first one to go outside the lines, be rendered immobile, or otherwise yield will be disqualified. Contestants, are you both ready? Sure. Izuku nervously nodded as he gripped his robot's controls. I'm ready, Habuko stuttered as she widened her eyes. Okay then. Midnight pulled back her whip. 3, 2, 1, fight! The moment the whip cracked, Habuko's eyes glowed yellow, and Izuku felt his entire body go limp. His arms slumped on the controls, which caused the mighty mech to tip forward and fall on the ground. Habuko, taking immediate advantage of her opportunity, ran up to Izuku and tried to push him and his robot out of bounds. Unfortunately, she forgot to account for how heavy the 6'5" robot was. She barely made it a few feet before Izuku felt his senses return to him. Midoriya, are you able to get up? Midnight asked, seemingly ready to call the match in Habuko's favor. Not quite. Izuku grabbed the controls and dug both of his scorpion tails into the ground, pushing his mech back up. Habuko instinctively quivered from under the shadow of the metal behemoth, a fear that only amplified once Izuku reeled back a punch aimed at her. Habuko let instinct take over as she activated her quirk on him again. Izuku was initially peeved that he was falling again, but his annoyance quickly turned to joy as he realized who he was about to land on. Eep! Habuko tried to dive away from the falling robot, but her legs ended up getting caught under the metal. Habuko, are you able to get out? Midnight asked the snake girl. I think I can. Habuko was just about to pull her legs from under the robot when the open palm suddenly shot up and slammed down on the rest of her body, pinning her completely. Never mind. Habuko Mongoose is unable to continue. Izuku Midoriya wins. Midnight cheered as Izuku hoisted the robot body off the ground. Sorry about that, Izuku instinctively apologized. If it makes you feel any better, you made a really good showing during the cavalry battle, or lack thereof. Thanks, Habuko muttered just loud enough for Izuku to hear. Sue says it's already getting memed to death on social media. Round 2. Tsuyu Asui versus Setsuna Takage. Setsuna split herself into dozens of pieces as she flew in circles around Asui, who tried to take them down with her tongue. To the viewers in the stands, it looked less like a fight and more like a frog trying to catch flies. Tsuyu couldn't keep track of all the pieces, however. Wasn't long before both of Setsuna's hands snuck up behind Suyu, hoisted her up, and threw her out of bounds. Round 3, Ochaku Uraraka versus Tenya Ida. The moment the match began, Ida boosted himself towards Ochako at the highest speed he could manage, but thanks to her air propulsion boots, she was able to boost out of the way and tag him with all 5 fingers. Ida immediately began flailing around in circles before floating out of the bounds. When the match was called, Ochako tapped her fingers together to return Ida's gravity. Release! It seems as if I have been bested, Ida lamented. I shall have to train harder to assure this outcome will never happen again. You were pretty fast, though. If I didn't have my boots, you definitely would have won. Before Ida could respond, he felt his phone ring in his pocket. Oh, it's from Mother. I'm sure it's merely a call concerning my performance at the sports festival, and nothing else at all. Round 4, Shoto Todoroki versus Mezzo Shoji. Blah, 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 giant glacier, Shoji got frozen, Shoto has daddy issues. Round 5, Denki Kaminari versus Ibara Shiozaki. I'll spare you some time. It went exactly the same as canon. Kaminari shorted himself out, and Ibara wrapped him up in her vines. What else do you want? Round 6, Nato Monoma versus Juzo Hananuki. Monoma wasn't allowed to bring outside quirks into the ring, so he had to focus on copying his opponents. He managed to avoid Hananuki's sinkholes long enough to touch him and copy his quirk. He then softened the ground beneath them, which turned their fight into a round of mud wrestling, a sport in which both combatants were equally unskilled at. After a few minutes of pushing, throwing, tussling, and general roughhousing, Hananuki yielded after Monoma caught him in a chokehold. Round 7, Mei Hatsume versus Mina Furasa. Kamiya Namuri had been a sports festival referee for almost a decade, and during her time, she had seen all types of pairings. Good sports raring for a good old spar, bitter rivals both determined to come out on top, best friends reluctant to fight one another, sworn enemies prepared to decimate their opponent in the ring. She'd seen it all, at least she thought she did. When the 2 support corps students walked out into the ring, seemingly having an entire conversation with their glares alone, Kamiya felt an aura radiating off of both of them that she'd never felt before. She could narrow it down to some type of rivalry, but it wasn't the fighting kind she was used to feeling. It was more like a business rivalry? Regardless, Kamiya pushed those curiosities aside as she prepared her whip to start the match. I'm sure you both know the rules by now, so I'll just say, play nice and leave you girls to it. With a seductive wink, she cracked her whip and began the match. Hello there, potential investors! Mei's voice blared from the speaker system. I'm Mei Hatsume, future CEO of Hatsume Industries, and I'm here to... Forget what she has to say, Mina's voice suddenly cut Mei's off. I'm Mina Furasa, owner and founder of Furasa Incorporated, and I'm here to show you some inventions that'll actually work. Too bad yours are too small for people to see, Mei retorted as she retook control of the speaker system. Mina smirked as she pulled out a remote with a singular red button. They may be small, but they pack a big punch. Oh no. Mina mashed the button repeatedly, each punch causing Mei to punch herself in the face. Check out my mind control chip. Just stick it up your target's nose while they're asleep, and you can have them do any simple action at the push of a button. Oh yeah? Mei ignored the pain in her face as she reached into her backpack with her free hand. It's a good thing I built a one-handed missile launcher, perfect for taking down annoying competitors while your other hand is preoccupied. Mei fired the rocket launcher in Mina's direction, which she dodged at the last second. However, she wasn't prepared for the resulting explosion, which knocked her down and blew the remote right out of her hand. Now that all the nuisances are taken care of, I'd like you to get a proper look at my first baby, the Skate Mate number 8. Mei hopped on her skateboard as she took off towards Mina, who quickly avoided getting run over by rolling out of the way before the skateboard could roll out of bounds and made an impossibly tight 360-degree turn and tried again. With rocket thrusters, tight turning technology, and adjustable sensors, this baby is perfect for mowing down any and all bratty support engineers who think they're better than me. As Mina dodged the incoming skateboard for the 6th time, she pulled out a bag of tiny robots and deposited them on the ground. For those of you who aren't as impressed by a fancy skateboard, which is everyone, you'll love my micro ants. Not only can they lift you up and carry you out of harm's way, but they can also go inside of other devices and deactivate them. The next time Mei tried to run over Mina, the micro ants latched onto the skateboard and dismantled the entire thing piece by piece, causing Mei to fall flat on her face. Mei slowly hoisted herself off the ground, her face portraying a quiet rage. All right, I see what you're doing, she said, her barely audible voice sounding cold and desolate. You want to mess with my babies? Fine. She let out a humorless chuckle as she reached into her bag and pulled out a large blaster ray, which she held up like a Gatling gun. I just hope you know how deep a mother's love runs. Mina couldn't help but gulp. She might have pushed May's buttons a little too hard. Need to kill someone right away? May's oversized weapon hummed ominously. Then try my brazen baby blaster. Mina did not like the way May pointed the weapon at her, so she scrambled around in her pockets to pull out a small cube, which she threw to the ground. Within seconds, a blue field of energy appeared around her. Need to block any potentially deadly giant lasers? Then try my forceful force field. It goes wherever you go. That shield will crumble against my greatest baby, May challenged. Wanna mess around and find out? Mina smirked. Gladly. May pulled the trigger on her weapon, and a huge pink laser beam shot out the barrel and hit Mina's force field head-on. But the force field remained steady. So steady, in fact, that Mina started to take steps forward to get the full brunt of the blast and really show what her force field could do. May took this as a personal challenge and began stepping up as well. As the two inventors slowly walked towards each other, the beam grew more and more intense, and the force field slowly began to crack. Heat and energy radiated across the entire stadium, but Mina could tell May's resolve was finite, as her laser gun itself began noticeably overheating. Give it up, May, Mina grunted as she approached the center of the arena. You first, May grunted in return as she approached with equal speed. The two investors struggled to keep moving. Each step felt like a marathon, but neither would yield, neither would admit defeat, neither would let one triumph over the other. With one more step from each of them, the immovable object finally collided with the unstoppable force. Laser met force field, pink met blue. May met Mina. Upon contact, neither girl's invention could take it anymore, and they both exploded from the sheer exertion of power, treating the viewers from the stadium to a fantastic light show, the likes of which the 4th of July could only dream to replicate. When the dust cleared and the temperature returned to normal, the crowd bore witness to both inventors lying unconscious outside the ring. Midnight got out from her cover and announced, Both combatants are unable to fight. As such, a tiebreaker will be employed to determine who moves on to the next round. She pulled out a coin from her pocket and said, Hatsume is heads, Furasa is tails. After flipping and catching the coin in her palm, Midnight announced the results. Tails! Mina Furasa wins! Later, in the infirmary, May and Mina sat next to each other in their hospital beds, each refusing to look the other in the eye. They were exhausted from Recovery Girl's healing sessions, but their feelings still shone strong. I hate you, May stated. The feeling is more than mutual, Mina responded. Why'd you have to go and ruin my sales pitch? Because I knew you'd be too wrapped up in your own to give me any airtime. Just because you're right doesn't mean I'm not mad. Well, I'm mad too. You blew up all my inventions. I won't even be able to do anything in the next round. Good. You deserve to lose. Want to make out? May huffed. Fine, but I'm still angry with you. As the two inventors proceeded to suck face, Recovery Girl, who had overheard their entire conversation from across the room, banged her head on her desk repeatedly. Why does this happen every year? Well, that was something, Izuku said as he watched Cementos prepare the arena for the next match, though he was still in shock from the intensity of the last one. Mikumo shrugged. It's no big deal. Let's just see how the next match turns out. Yeah, Kachan versus Yayorozu. I didn't get a good look at Yayorozu's quirk in the first 2 rounds, so I'm not sure how that'll turn out. I know her quirk, Mikumo spoke up. It lets her create any non-living substance from her fat stores. Really? How do you know that? Simple. I was hired by a villainous organization to spy on UA and its students. Izuku couldn't help but chuckle. Good one, Akatani. Did I say something funny? Round 8. Katsuki Bakugo versus Momo Yayorozu. You better shut up during this match, Katsuki scolded his conscience as he walked up to the arena. Whatever you say, his conscience complied. Believe it or not, I only want what's best for you. I seriously doubt that. Let's try and make this match marginally less destructive than the last one, okay? Midnight advised as she prepared to start the match. Contestants, are you ready? Yeah, sure, Katsuki grunted. Unquestionably, Momo responded with a steely gaze in her eyes. Katsuki knew she was planning something, but he wasn't quite sure what. All right then, Midnight cracked her whip. Begin! Die! Katsuki blasted himself in Momo's direction. He pulled back his open palm, preparing to deliver a devastating explosion, when he was suddenly blocked by a riot shield that appeared from Momo's arms. Bakugo casually blasted away the shield, only to find Momo waiting on the other side with a taser in hand. She lunged forward, but Katsuki had the reflexes to launch himself backwards and out of her range. Taking advantage of his opponent's odd position, Katsuki launched himself forward yet again and used his speed to deliver a devastating knee to Momo's gut. The girl coughed up spittle as she doubled over, the wind completely blown out of her. Katsuki shot both hands at her to finish the job, but she rolled out of the way of his twin explosions. Raising her arm at him, Momo released some sort of puffy white substance from her hand, hitting Katsuki dead on. "Gah! What the heck is this?" Katsuki yelled as he tried to launch another explosion in Momo's direction, but to his surprise, nothing came out. Momo put on a confident grin as she forced herself up. A solution of water and potassium acetate, commonly known as fire extinguisher fluid. Katsuki immediately got the message. "You deactivated my blastin' quirk? I'll kill you! You blastin'..." Katsuki was cut off as Momo created a metal staff from her midsection and struck him in the abdomen, then his shoulder, then his kneecaps. It only took a few more hits after that for him to fall over, his bruised, and possibly broken, legs refusing to work with him. "Katsuki Bakugo has been rendered immobile. Momo Yayorozu wins," Midnight announced to the cheering crowd. "Don't say a blastin' word," Katsuki thought to the voice in his head. "I don't have to," the aforementioned voice chirped. "The fact that you know what I'm about to say proves that you acknowledge your mistake." "Great! Blastin' peachy! What the heck should I do now, Mr. I Know Everything?" "You can start by remembering your classmates' names." "I already know their names." "Blast face." "Really? Who's the yellow-haired guy with the electricity quirk?" "Pikachu," Katsuki answered confidently. "Oh yeah, we have a lot of work to do." And that's the end of Chapter 5. I really love this chapter. This one was an inspiration for when I'm writing my own personal sports festival chapters. Just a pinnacle of sports festivals right here. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Chapter 6 will probably be up soon, just after What Makes a Monster and What Makes a Man updates its final chapter. Thank you so much. Patch out.